Hi, Zombie Hunters. It's Brian. It's actually our last Lane's Logs, if you can believe it. We're headed into Module 5. We're ending things up talking about gaming and the video zombie. I've got Call of Duty behind me, playthrough. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let me go over some quick things. First things first. We have a different schedule this week as we are headed out. See what I did with my background? As we are headed out of the course, Module 5 is just a little different. In short, there's no Saturday. Technically, the course ends on Friday. So today's Monday when I'm recording this. The blog for threats is due by midnight tonight. That's the most theoretically oriented blog that we're going to do. It really asks you to connect the dots on some of the things. Look, all along we have been trying to use this idea of us participating in a zombie apocalypse as a kind of heuristic, a way for us to think through the effect that the zombie is having. This blog is no different. I'm asking you to consider the idea of theory and what these things can represent in terms of threats. Wednesday, you're still going to have a discussion post for this unit based on video games and the readings. It's a little bit different. It's much easier and much more simplified. It's an agree or disagree post. Okay, so that's due on Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday, you've got to wrap up. But by Friday, you need to have responded to 2 other people in the discussion post. You need to have taken the quiz. It closes at midnight on Friday. And you need to post the last blog. Okay, and don't worry, the last blog is just a little bit different. Let me talk about what we're going to do this week as we move forward. Hey, we're out of Call of Duty. It's finally time for The Last of Us. I've got my Fireflies shirt on. If you haven't noticed, our discussion groups for the entire course have been based on The Last of Us video game. Many of you just know it as the HBO series, actually based on a very, very successful video game by Naughty Dog. Actually, interesting story. Many of the people who worked on the HBO miniseries were gigantic fans of the game itself, and they tried to keep the video series as true to the game as they possibly could. I'm not talking about the writers. I'm talking about like the actual actors, stunt persons, coordinators, the set people. They were all hugely influenced by the game. It made a big, big impact on him. In short, we are asking the question, hey, we've tracked this figure through the 1930s, through the 1960s. It's different representations in Romero's films. We looked at how it's moved in speed and how it represents different things in our society. We tracked it into romance and comedy. What does it mean to be able to shoot this thing yourself, to participate in the video game portion of it? Now, we're going to do it a little bit differently. You should have known by now. The requirement for this week is not to actually watch something, it's to play something. So you should get a copy of The Last of Us. You can get it on Steam, you can get it on PlayStation 5. We're going to try and facilitate this week by doing things a little bit differently. We are going to have some actual times where we set up to do some game time with folks, okay? So Wednesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon, we're going to be on our Engagely classroom. We're going to be streaming. It'll be like a calm Twitch, if you will, okay? You can join us for gaming. We'll share tips and all kinds of different things. Hopefully we'll have a fun experience and talk about what the video game means and all of its different impacts. Now, we've entered this era where we're talking about the video games. Let me talk just a little bit about the last blog. I know you're thinking, this week is short. I'm really worried I won't have the weekend to work on the blog. Don't worry. It's very different. Look, it's no surprise there's not really a zombie apocalypse going on. We've been using it just as a little tool, a little trick to think through some of the different issues. This last blog, we attempt to pull back the curtain, okay? And it's really just a reflection. I'm just asking what you learned through this process of us going through the blogs and different things. And in one sense, like, we didn't actually have a zombie apocalypse. We didn't actually have to, like, store our food and water and things like that. However, one thing we have learned from this course is that zombies are actually all around us. They're in our video games. They're on our television sets. They're in our movie theaters. They're in our graphic novels, our comic books. They're at our game stores. They're on our cell phone devices, Plants vs. Zombies. They're all over the place. You actually could not deny that the zombie infestation has actually come to pass. It just isn't the way we expected it. It isn't with all of the murder and infection. It is, in fact, with all kinds of impact and rhetorical effects. And so this last blog is about what those rhetorical effects are. Hopefully we'll be able to finish strong on the last blog as we take it in a little bit different direction against just self-reflection. Finally, last thing, many of you have emailed and said, hey, what about extra credit? The spot score is open. That's the teaching evaluation form. I'm going to post a link to it right after this. That is something you can get extra credit for. If you take a screenshot of completing it and you send it to me, I'll get the extra credit entered onto that. I'm doing a little departure because we're trying to get everything wrapped up. Finally, finally, I'm going to be in my office hours in Engagely all this week long, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Come by and join me if you have questions, if you have issues. We got one last thing where we're chasing that zombie down through video games. So let's try and finish strong, zombie hunters, and close out the entire course.